At long last, it does seem as if that which we reported a month ago maybe just took one extra month to come here. And that means that the notice of allegations is reported to be coming soon for the Connor Stallions saga. So let's talk about the latest report, and I will kind of continue to delve into things here on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I am your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. Now, Chris Balas from the Wolverine, he released a report. I'm going to pull up the report. I wasn't going to. I was going to. It's behind a paywall. I was going to just kind of go off of what I was told, but I want to kind of, because I have not checked back in. So, but I do want to kind of stay with the intel that I've been given and just kind of maybe tease that out a little bit more. Right now, I thought it was going to come out about a month ago. Everyone did. That was behind the scenes. And then, like I told you recently, they had decided to interview Denard Robinson. I don't know if that was what the holdup was. Certainly, they were still digging on stuff. So, according to Chris Balas, there, and we're gonna get into this a little bit more than me maybe normally would. He says sources inform the Wolverine the NCAA is prepared to issue a notice of allegations as soon as this week, maybe tomorrow, for Michigan's alleged sign stealing operation under former coach Jim Harbaugh. Level 1 violations are expected for former staffer Connor Stallion's role in involvement in and arrangement for off-campus in-person scouting, and another expected to be levied against a former staffer for a separate incident involving dinner and ride for student athletes. Stallions is also expected to be charged with failure to cooperate in an investigation, both during and after employment. No current staffers are facing level 1 allegations. At least 2 other former coaches who were involved in paying for dinner for Michigan athletes are expected to be accused of level 2 violations. So this is, again, basically the same stuff I've been told. I want to get out ahead of this and say that I don't agree with some of what Balas is saying as far as punishment, because there wouldn't be punishment in the notice of allegations. So there would be no way of knowing that. And Balas is a dear friend of mine, but it's just one of those things where it is, because he says that, there's no asterisk coming, no games being vacated, but there could be a potential bowl ban or postseason ban. Again, that's not going to be in the notice of allegations. So whether that's what the NCAA is thinking or not is kind of moot, because that's way down the road, right? Like they have to go through the process of it all. I don't believe that would be the case anyway, again, because we know what happened. The timing of this, I think, is also in part due to the documentary coming out, where you're going to see maybe a little bit more than a lot of people understand, right? The NCAA says that it is that Connor Stallions failed to cooperate. Michigan alleges the same thing. But you have to understand that doesn't mean didn't cooperate. I know it sounds like it. That makes it sound like it. But there is a specific incidence, and I'm not going to spoil it. I'm going to wait till the documentary, and then we'll talk about it a little bit more. But there's a specific thing that they're looking at and saying that, hey, you didn't do this thing we wanted you to do. And none of you would do this either, by the way. Again, we will revisit that the day the documentary drops. We're going to have a special episode with a special guest. It's going to be one of our biggest episodes yet. So stay tuned for that. We will talk a little bit more about what went down there. But it's something that you wouldn't do if the NCAA asked you to do, or Michigan asked you to do, kind of no matter the circumstances. Therefore, it's one of those things where the NCAA kind of acts like it is, and you know this, they act like they're judge, jury, and executioner. They act like they have United States Congress level subpoena power. They don't have any of those things. Unfortunately, though, because it is the governing body, they will charge you if you don't acquiesce to their demands. As far as the level 1 violations, as far as the involvement in arrangement for off-campus in-person scouting, I think the documentary is going to shed some light onto the NCAA with some of that stuff, and also the burden of proof when it comes to what they aren't really kind of getting when it comes to bylaw, what is it, 1163 or whatever it is. And but nonetheless, we knew that was probably going to be the charge. When I said before, about a month and a half ago, that you will laugh when you hear what one of the charges is. I'll go ahead and tell you right now, because it sounds like they're just going to go ahead and levy the charge they wanted to levy rather than what they kind of had in the draft about a month and a half ago, which was conspiracy to violate said bylaw. So that was the level of what they had. And again, this is all you see a lot of people chirping on social media and all of that kind of stuff. This is no different than anything I've told you. Connor was in terms of the staff, essentially a lone actor. No one ahead of him, above him, and on the pay grade had knowledge or directed any of this stuff. And so this is still a lone actor situation. And then you get down to the idea of who or what was the law actually violated, the rule rather, actually violated, and what kind of competitive advantage did it give Michigan if that was the case. And then that's why you're starting to see a lot of other little ticky-tack things, right? Dinner and a ride for student athletes, level 2 violations with former coaches who were paying for dinner. There's more to it than that, to my knowledge. But they're all minor things that normally you would see any school at this kind of stage of the season, the off season rather, get self-report. They're just trying to do whatever they can to make this look as serious as possible. So that's where it stands as far as I know. From what, like I said before, lawyers who had been informed by the NCAA about a month and a half ago, what they were informed as far as what the NCAA said it had and what it was going to charge. Again, they took an extra month. So did they find something that they feel that they can tie to this to make it worse? Maybe, but I'm not aware of anything based off of everything that I've been telling you since October last year that is any kind of smoking gun when it comes to anyone outside of Connor, because it doesn't exist. Now, it is the prerogative of the NCAA to do what it's going to do. So let's get into the potential punishment and all of that kind of stuff. We're going to do that here in just a moment. Before we do, are you taking that dream vacation this summer but dreading the cost? With Ibotta, you get cash back on all of your purchases, so you can spend more time making memories this summer and less time dreaming about them. Ibotta is a free app that lets you earn cash back every single time you shop. Earn hundreds of items from groceries, beauty supplies, even toys, so you can make sure that you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. The average Ibotta user earns about $256 a year. That can cover the cost of an entire shopping trip, that flight that you're eyeing, or the fancy dinner that you have been craving. You can get yourself a little PS5 portal so that you can play College Football 25 wherever you go. I did that down in Indianapolis, by the way. Other apps that give you points don't amount to much, but with Ibotta, you earn cash back that you can withdraw to your bank account, PayPal, or gift cards. You simply add the offers in the app, upload your receipt, and voila, the money is yours. You can save on over 2,400 brands and shop at over 1,000 retailers, including your favorite grocery stores, Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, all of those types of places. It's time you joined over 50 million users who use Ibotta to earn cash back every time they shop. So right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners, $5 for just trying Ibotta. By using the code LOCKEDONCollege when you register, just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app and start earning cash back, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege. That's IBOTTA. In the Google Play or App Store, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege. We're going to continue on here in just a moment, but before we do, warmer, sunnier days are calling. Fuel up for them with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. I've been a Factor user. It is an excellent, excellent service. Meet your wellness goals in time for summer thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. Make today the day you kickstart a new healthy routine. So what are you waiting for? They've got over 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week. So they'll have plenty of new flavors to explore. Crush your wellness goals this summer with dietitian-approved meals and ingredients that you can trust. Make your day delicious from breakfast to dessert. Stay fueled with easy, nutritious options. Treat yourself to restaurant-quality meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, and blackened salmon. Keep kitchen time to a minimum. Factor meals are ready in 2 minutes. No shopping, prepping, cooking, or cleanup. Enjoy effortless support to your lifestyle. Choose from 6 menu preferences to help you manage calories, maximize protein intake, avoid meat, or simply eat well balanced. Head to factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50. Use the code LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off of your first box plus 20% off of your next month. That's code LockedOnCollege50 at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off of your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. All right. We didn't get to the weekend show because I still haven't really parsed through the player audio from Big Ten Media Days. Yes, I was there. I sat with Donovan Edwards for the entire 30 minutes, but I had a camera set up at Max Bredesen and an audio recording of Makari Page. So I'm still kind of going through that. So we'll get to that on Wednesday because tomorrow we get Kirk Campbell and Wink Martindale. So tomorrow evening, we are going to explore kind of what they had to say in their pre-fall camp press conference. So keeping in mind, fall camp starts on Wednesday. So we're really there, man. We're a month away tomorrow from the season, which is hard to believe. And being down in Indianapolis, it wasn't even just like the Michigan media, but everyone I talked to was like, it does not feel like the season's like right around the corner here. Don't know if you're ready for it. I don't know that I am. So not that I'm doing much with my summer, but nonetheless. So when it comes to what the penalties will be, keep in mind that is a mystery. I don't really want to push back on Chris with his report and all of that, but that to me screams conjecture because the NCAA, they don't come down with their punishment until after the fact. Now he does say that if Michigan is getting a penalty of any kind of bowl ban, Michigan will fight it. The reason I'm skeptical over not only the potential punishment, but even the mentality of Michigan is because we've seen that before. I had multiple people at Michigan telling me how hard they were going to fight a Harbaugh suspension going into the week of Penn State. Like these are the people that if they were telling you the same thing, names of people, if they told you the same thing, you would be like, well, that's that, right? Like I was getting uploads of GIFs and stuff being like, prepare for battle and things like that. And yet when Michigan was offered what they were offered, Jim Harbaugh apparently had said, you know what, let me just go ahead and take this and we can put this behind us. But regardless, Michigan rolled over and died when it came to that. And I mean, it turned out okay. Michigan won the national championship. They won those games with Harbaugh sidelined and all of that. But the things that are being alleged, the level ones that are in there, they're not, they're just not of the degree, especially because they're being levied to someone who is no longer and has not been with the program for almost a year. And you cannot tie that to Jim Harbaugh, who is also not with the program. You cannot tie it to any current staffers. To my understanding that I have had going back to late October last year. Thus, if there was any potential punishment as being speculated, it would punish players who had nothing, who were there and staff that are there that had nothing to do with any of it, which it is my understanding that the NCAA shies away from those types of things for that reason. Now you're going to see, and I have seen, all of the usual suspects on Twitter, the rival fans doing a celebration dance. Nothing has changed. Just because the only thing that has changed is a speculation of what could happen, which again, there is no way to really tell what the NCAA is going to do, because that comes after Michigan's had time to respond, and then they go through and say, okay, here's what we are charging you with based off of the essentially call and answer, and therefore here's what it is, right? Like if you think to the Burgergate of it all, the notice of allegations hit last year, and there was no like, well, but here's what you're going to get punished for, right? Like that's not come out until basically now, of probation and all of that stuff. So don't get worked up in a tizzy if rival fans are doing the same thing that they've been doing. Here's the thing, if you're an Ohio State or a Michigan State fan, or Notre Dame or any of these people, apparently Clemson for whatever reason. I've seen a lot of Clemson people talking in the last 24 hours. I understand, because if it was one of your schools, Michigan fans would be doing the same thing to you. The difference here is, for me particularly, is I know the specifics of everything. That will be undeniable in the coming weeks, between the notice of allegations and some of the future shows that we're going to have. So that'll be undeniable eventually. But when it comes to the punishment, there's no way to really parse that. And I have a hard time believing that the NCAA, as much as they are looking for some kind of way to, in a way, save face, they've made such a big deal out of this. This was the story that dominated college football last year. But I just cannot see. I mean, Harbaugh had his suspension. Connor Stalions is no longer with the program. Michigan as an entity cooperated. There's other people that didn't necessarily cooperate fully in the eyes of the NCAA. And they're tagging on a bunch of secondary things that no one would bat an eye at if it wasn't coupled with the sign stealing stuff, right? You have to keep in mind, with a lot of what's been going on, it's like I said a month ago, the NCAA has been in search of a problem. And anytime you do that with any college football program, you're going to find problems. It doesn't matter which one. You're going to find at least secondary problems. You just are. That's not me condoning, breaking any rules. We could find a lot worse things if we pull back the tarp on some other programs than a couple secondary violations. And you know all about it because it's been well documented going back to the Godfrey article, Meet the Bagman. And there was no curiosity when John U. Bacon printed a quote from Rashawn Gary talking about getting hundreds of thousands of dollars offer from Clemson, right? There was no curiosity there. So if the NCAA gets curious enough and goes behind the veil at any college football institution, you're going to be able to find something, which is kind of what this was relayed to me as, and why I talked about this about a month ago. So, c'est la vie. This is the life right now. And the timing, again, I think is they couldn't go forever with this documentary coming out, because I think it's not going to shape the narrative of rival fans, but of the average person. You see a lot of people kind of from a national perspective, national media, that look at all of this now and say, just let it go, right? Let it go. Because there was no more of a beneficial way to show that Michigan was not relying on Connor Stalions' tactics as heavily as the NCAA likes to insinuate, than Michigan going out and beating Penn State on the road without Jim Harbaugh, beating Ohio State at home without Jim Harbaugh, and then beating Alabama and Washington with Jim Harbaugh, but with no Connor Stalions. It's as legitimate as you can get, hence Charlie Baker, the president of the NCAA, saying the next day that it is a legitimate championship. So what do I think will happen? I don't know, but I would honestly be shocked if it's anything that's necessarily substantial once everything is said and done. It's knowing what I know and what you will know more of in the coming weeks. It's hard to really to see it again as more than what it's really truly is. So keeping my mouth slightly shut because I have to, but you'll learn more on August 27th when the documentary comes out. You'll learn more on this show that same day as well. So stay tuned. You're going to want to bookmark this show for August 27th because we're going to have on the 27th and the 28th, probably also the 29th. We're going to have a lot of incredible content for you coming that week. So stay tuned for that. All right. I do want to move on, and we do want to get into a couple other little topics. We're not going to go nuts with it. I want to talk a little bit about Gary Danielson, who had some really cool stuff to say. I just wrote an article about it. I asked him some questions at Big Ten Media Days. We're going to get to him and what he had to say here in just a moment. But before we do, I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games. And the sports aren't sportsing like I'd want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets any single time that I am in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a booster bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every single day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, so last week we had an episode with Brad Nessler and Adam Zucker, but I also talked to Gary Danielson that morning, and I didn't include him. He didn't have as much, right? It was just like a minute long question and answer. It wasn't an exclusive. There were mostly Buckeye reporters around him because that's how sometimes these mixers tend to work. They swarm. I say that I like this. That's not a slam on the Ohio State media. A lot of them I am friendly with, as I've discussed on this show, right? Like there are things that are bigger than rivalries and mutual, having colleagues across the aisle, right? Being bipartisan. It's a good thing. Anyway, I talked to Gary Danielson in a scrum. I asked him hey, Michigan, it's a lot of people think they're going to take a big step back and they don't look at Michigan as being a potential to repeat or anything like that. I said, what do you think about that? And he said, I don't think so. He said, here's the interesting thing about the Big Ten. The biggest question marks from the big teams. Right now, it's the Big Five, Iowa, because of the schedule of Penn State, Oregon, Ohio State, and Michigan. All of them, the biggest question mark they have, all five, is quarterback. Drew Aller didn't really come through for Penn State last year. Transfer quarterback at Ohio State, where the only measurement is win a national championship. Alex Orji at Michigan, taking over the number 1 draft pick. We'll get to that in a moment. But I really think the way that the team was built and having a coach that was already there because they brought in transfers to fill spots, it's not like they haven't been recruiting linemen that aren't ready to play and had to wait another year. So I think this team's going to look about the same, but the same question marks are going to be at quarterback. JJ McCarthy, 2 years ago was like, is he the guy that can do it? But briefly, he stood up after the TCU game and said, we're coming back here to win it. And he did. That's what they need now. Is it realistic this year? We'll see. I mean, it's not like they're not going to be loaded at offensive line. They've been loaded at offensive line since 1969. I don't know that that's true. Certainly there was a 10-year drought there. But they're going to have good offensive linemen. They've got great tight ends, great running back, receiver takes care of itself. Defense will be loaded. The quarterback position is the key, but it is on all football teams. So I think that's a good way to look at it, right? It is the quarterback situation. He says Alex Orji, like I said, I believe on the Friday episode, is I'm not 100% on the Orji train in terms of will he start the year as the starter. As far as his talent and who I want to see, it's Alex Orji because I think he's got the highest ceiling of all the quarterbacks. He's very tantalizing. But after I asked Sharon Moore on Thursday, what's the rubric for what you're looking for at quarterback? Alex Orji doesn't necessarily meet all of those things because you talk about ball security. Now, it's not that he's turned the ball over, but when it comes to, finding someone who's got that veteran leadership that is going to be maybe a little bit more than a game manager, can make the big play, but is just going to take care of the football. To me, that's the former 4-star 7th-year guy, right? Keep in mind, Jack Tuttle, as much as he's much maligned, I understand. I watched some Indiana games where he was the starter. It didn't look very good, but that was several years ago. Different system, not as much talent. And it makes you sit there and look and say, what would it look like with a much better offensive line? some players that can really help him out, having a really strong run game, all of that kind of stuff. Number 110 in the country, according to 24/7 Sports, as a recruit. The number 8 pro-style quarterback. He was actually ahead of Michael Penix in the same class as far as rankings, but obviously hadn't worked out. So I do believe that it's going to end up being him. We'll see as the weeks kind of go forward, right? Because there is a fall camp to have. And, there could be setbacks after his injury. There could be all those types of things. But the quarterback is one part. But this idea that you have to have this otherworldly type of offense to win it all is not the case. That's kind of like Zucker and also Nessler talked about having that otherworldly defense. It's like I said before, it might not necessarily look as otherworldly just based off the fact that you've got some tougher offenses on the schedule. Even the group of 5 offenses, Arkansas State and Fresno State. Fresno State won't have its head coach, Jeff Tedford, stepping down and all. But you would expect that those could be, kind of potent offenses. You got Texas, you got USC, you got a Jed Fish offense-oriented Washington, right? Like all of those types of things kind of working against your defense. But you look at the personnel, you look at the fact that you've got Wink Martindale at the top. I know people kind of feel like, change is scary. No matter where you go, change is going to be scary. But I still kind of feel like, okay, this is a good situation for the Michigan defense. Michigan was able to win the Big Ten with Cade McNamara at the helm. And yeah, you had Roman Wilson, but he was pretty much a non-factor for much of the year. You had Cornelius Johnson, who in a lot of ways was a non-factor. You lost. Those were your receivers though. And you lost Ronnie Bell before the season, like at the beginning of the season. And yet they still managed to win the Big Ten in 2021 based off of a really strong run game and a really good defense and keeping in mind what Ohio State had. So it's hard for me to take a look at this and say it's not going to work. Now, maybe Sherrone Moore is just a different man, right? Like the team didn't operate quite at the full capacity in his 4 games as it normally would look under Jim Harbaugh. But he was juggling a lot of things, right? He wasn't just the interim head coach. He was also the offensive coordinator and the offensive line coach. Now he's just the head coach. So when you are able to kind of put things in that perspective, then maybe that becomes a lot more possible. We'll have to see it. But all right, tomorrow, Tuesday, we're going to talk about offense, defense, the big takeaways out of Kirk Campbell and Wink Martindale. Super excited to hear what they have to say on the eve of fall camp starting. Can't believe we're here. Anyway, that's going to do it for today's episode. We will talk to you again soon. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Peace.